Dear Dhamma Prince, it is the time for our Dhamma talk. May everyone consent with 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Kimpana uso citta visuddhatta bhagavati brahmacharyang uccati no hidang ausoti ti. Dear Venerable Sir, Dhamma Friends, today is our 3rd day and accordingly the 3rd Dhamma talk. As we have already agreed, we have taken the Ratavinita Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya as the main theme, and it has been translated as the relay chariots. And at the beginning it introduced Venerable Punnamantani Buddha as a very virtuous person. And at one time the Buddha has given in his convocation, the Punnamantani Buddha has recognized the Punnamantani Buddha as one of the best Dhamma teacher, Dhamma preacher, because he is having good qualities and he can preach them with his first-hand experience. So knowing that only, Venerable Sariputta is approaching him, and he is asking particular questions. And yesterday we took the question about the virtues, morality, and today the question is Kimpana uso citta visuddhatta bhagavatim brahmacharyang ussati. He is asking if it is not for the virtues, are you leading this celibate life in order to have the purification of the mind or the concentration? And for that question also, Venerable Punnamantani Buddha gave a negative answer. He says, not for that. So, what today I thought of taking for the day's Dhamma topic, and because it is more than yesterday's topic, it is more relevant to the meditative world, because wherever you go, you meet people, their basic aim or their main aim is to have this concentration. Whenever the concentration come into being, they are happy to consider it as one of the main achievement in their meditative life. So therefore, there are a lot of controversial ideas about this concentration, or in the sense we can say samatha bhavana, samatha concentration. So here Venerable Sariputta is asking, is the meaning of your celibate life for this achievement of samatha, or achievement of the concentration? But the Venerable Punnamantani Buddha denies. He says it is not. So this is very important message for the meditators, because when and where the concentration going to happen, the meditation appear very smooth, very pleasurable. So therefore it is natural for someone to have this concentration, otherwise it is very difficult. Path is very difficult. Only the concentration going to give kind of an ease and kind of a immaterial pleasure. So it is natural someone to have a kind of a positive idea towards this concentration. But it itself has own disadvantages and flaws. So, before the emergence of the omniscient one, the Buddha, that was the notion that those who had achievement towards the concentration are being well respected. And they were the leaders as far as the spirituality is concerned and the religions are concerned. So when you study the early life of the Buddha to be, the ascetic Siddhartha, whenever he renunciated, these are the kind of people he met, and they are, even the Buddha to be was very skillful, and he managed to master all the concentration practices, and all of his masters were ready to accept him as one of the bright students, and therefore everyone asked them to share and stay with them and share with their the disciples and continue. But even as Buddha to be, he refused it and went forward and searched for he has the noble quest to understand the truth as it is or things as they are. So therefore, even after becoming his omniscient knowledge, he kept the concentration in due place, never considered it as one of the aims. It never considered as the final goal. And therefore, a lot of incidents are there that Buddha has given a due rationality or rationalization towards how to work with this concentration. That present day, I think this argument is much valuable than the previous days, because due to the frustration and due to the tension and all the kind of difficulties, whatever the materialistic escape way outs are becoming slowly invalid and not properly going to give the answer. So therefore, more and more inclination towards the spiritual way outs, and concentration is the main attraction. So therefore, many are get attracted into concentration, and then even though it is not considered as the final aim, they are obsessed with it. So when such a thing happens, very difficult to convince such a people, because the achievement in the concentration itself is not a joke. It's a fairly appreciable achievement. So therefore, those who have achieved verily recognize with it, assume with that, and they consider it is worthwhile to assume their own achievement. But when and where you get stuck with this concentration, your future progress will be hindered. So therefore, it is a kind of prerequisite. You can't do away with that also, and you otherwise, in one sense, otherwise you have to have a proper appreciation and keep it in the appropriate place. Otherwise, it will be another hindrance. So yesterday also, as far as the virtues are concerned, I quoted the particular sutta known as Sappurisa Sutta, found in the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length sayings, and the same sutta is in detail handling this issue. It says that whenever someone take the celibate life or become a monk or taken the full meditation and full time, he or she will compare, and the comparison come with the other people, other co-meditators, due to the defilements, that I am coming from the high caste, or I am coming from the rich family, I am in my prime age, I am learned, I have so much of abilities, or I have ability to preach Dhamma, or I am maintaining so much of ascetic practices. So whatever may be, all the so-called worldly assets are going to give a kind of a conceit, and whenever such a conceit going to happen, that's a friction with the society. So he or she going to make kind of a repercussions, and ultimately the smoothness of the communication with the others going to make a friction, and ultimately that will reflect whenever he or she going to sit and meditate. So explaining all such kind of assets, worldly assets, now Buddha is coming to the junction where he take that even the first jhana, when one is achieved the first jhana, on top of the other worldly qualities, people, the particular person who has not developed these noble characters tend to assume it, tend to recognize it as, identify it as, this achievement is me, this achievement is mine, this achievement belongs to me. So whenever such a thing going to happen, the very consideration itself is rather misleading him, and it will be a blemish even for the first jhana. And not only that, the future progress will be hindered. So therefore, that very achievement itself is rather highlighting his ignoble character rather than a nobility. So in order to overcome this, the Buddha says, if you wish to be a noble person, a true person, you have to consider, you have to non-identify, unassume these qualities, because these qualities not directly going to cut off your defilements. Of course, the necessary basic requirements, but identification with that and assuming with that itself is a hindrance. So therefore you have to learn the art of disclaiming. So this is the main hint that Venerable Punnamanthaniputta is giving by denying this Venerable Sariputta's statement. Venerable Sariputta is asking, are you practicing this celibate life in order to get the concentration, in order to get the samatha achievement? He point blank denies. That is to say, even if you gain this achievement, maybe access concentration or full absorption, you must know equally the art of disclaimer, art of unassuming, art of not to brag, not to look down others, those who have not gained. So for that, the Buddha is using one word specifically in this Sappurisa Sutta, Tammayata Atammayata. Tammayata means that when and where your meditation becomes successful and you are going to get a very serene, concentrated situation, you develop kind of a mentality, this particular mental state came out of my effort, therefore it is me, it is mine, and it is myself. That is called Tammeta. In Pali, the proper interpretation for this Tammeta is not being well interpreted. In that sense, I would like to quote Venerable Katukunante Jnanananda. He was one of our fellow meditators, one of our senior members, and he gave an interpretation. Tammeta means arising out of very quality. That you achieve kind of a quality, and out of that very quality arising a conceit that this is me, this is mine, this is myself. And that very Tammeta is going to be a hindrance. Instead, the Buddha is introducing Atammayata, the opposite of it, the disclaimer, or non-identification, or unassuming. That is a completely different thing from the formal meditation. When and where you achieve something, you arrive at something, you must understand that very achievement can lead you to develop more desire, you may lead it to more conceit and the egocentric kind of thinking. Whenever these kind of things happen, they themselves become a shackle or a hook to the samsara. Usually, whenever the Buddha is explaining the primary cause or immediate cause for suffering in the samsara is the attachment. Usually, the people in the worldly beings are attached to sensuous pleasure and the sense indulgence, and that is very quite direct. You can understand the consequences are also very conspicuous and very prominent. But the point now we are talking is not such a thing. The concentration, that is not such a thing we can categorize them as sensuous pleasure. It is not coming out of visual objects or sounds or smells or taste or comfortable touch or thinking. It is free of this sensuous pleasure, only going to give the concentration. So concentration therefore is known as immaterial kind of pleasure. But still it has the flow, it is its own disadvantage that you can get attached into this very concentration. And then that itself will be a hindrance or a shackle. So very difficult someone to get rid of this difficulty. So therefore, most of the time, the communication between the teacher and the student become cut off when such a difficulty or complication going to happen. When Jnanarama, when he is writing his books, specifically in the Vipassana yogis, when they come up to a point where the primary object becomes very calm and subtle, and at the beginning of course it appears like certain amount of uncertainty or maybe fearfulness, boredom and all the kind of thing. So by strategic approach, or by basically in the sense we can say by going prepared for that, some people can overcome it. And soon you overcome, what happens is the gladness going to arise, the rapture going to arise, and the happiness going to arise. Whenever someone is going through these hardships and then going to gain this gladness and the rapture and the happiness, the natural tendency is to get attached into that. And they are the teachers have to develop specific strategies to convince the disciples not to get attached there. So what happens is the disciples then avoiding meeting the teacher, or otherwise not mentioning these kind of things, thinking the teacher's achievement is not up to me, he is jealous, that is why he is asking me to not to indulge it or not to appreciate it, therefore the communication upsets can going to take place. So therefore ultimately he will put into this cleavage, and overindulging on the same thing may lose the mindfulness, may lose the primary object, and it can be a vortex like rotating in the same place. So therefore the concentration is when compared to the virtues is much more magnetized, much more magnetic, so more chances are there to get stuck into. In contrary, ironically, the concentration is a result out of a great effort, and therefore anyone who achieved it justify, rationalize and say it is worthwhile because it is immaterial kind of pleasure. So therefore why not indulge it? But the thing is, it is going to lead into a very subtle complications. So therefore understanding has to be there. That may be the reason why Venerable Punnamanthaniputta denies that my whole life, the celibate life or this monastic life is not for this kind of a concentration. It is just a byproduct. It's a milestone on the way. You must not stay there, but continue progressing. So later in the tradition, due to the different people's interpretation, usually this appreciation of the concentration is even now a problem and very difficult someone to arrive at a proper decision. So when the Jnanarama, when he's writing the Samatha Vidassana Bhavana Marga, the one book regarding the pathway to the concentration and the insight meditation, he quoted one particular incident happened during the time of the Buddha. There was one monk known as Assaji, and he used to have a very good concentration. So whenever any kind of a distraction or physical ailment or mental ailment happened, he used to go into that his particular famous popular concentration level, and he know how to overcome the vicissitudes of the life. So he was happily meditating monk. So whenever the problem happens, he go and abide, live in these concentration types, and he can heal himself, and he can be cured even in the mentally. So everyone others also considered him as a successful monk and happily living. But towards the end of his career, there was a unbearable kind of pain arise due to a disease. So at the beginning he managed to overcome the disease, but slowly the disease was increasing. So he failed to go into the popular or common absorptions. So now two questions. One thing is the pain in the pain coming from the physical sickness, and the other one is he was so desperate and discouraged that he can't go into the jhanic experience, and not only that he can't overcome it, but due to the disturbed mind he can't go. So his collapse in the moral and discouragement was so pathetic. So one day he was so desperately asked one of the co-practitioners, now I am reaching my end and I am complete at lost, because the pain is so excruciating, and due to that I can't go into the jhanic experiences, and I thought the jhanic experiences is a real companion. It will be really help me under such circumstances, but what happens is now I can't go even. So therefore please go and report to the Buddha and ask his help. So luckily the Buddha himself pay a visit, and when he go there, he is lying on his deathbed and so desperately try to get up. Then the Buddha says, don't worry, you are sick, nothing to worry about, paying respect and coming and worshipping, you be there. And he says, Bhante, that I am so discouraged, and therefore I thought of having your view, having your vision even at my deathbed. It will be give some kind of a console for the peace. Then the Buddha asked, what happened? Then he says, Bhante, I had so much of command and the mastery on the jhanic experiences, so I thought that under these conditions it will really come in rescue and help me, but now I am so much in pain and I can't go into the jhanic experiences. So therefore, no way out other than an external help like you. Then the Buddha is making a very specific statement, do you also think this concentration as the crux of my teaching? And then Assaji was desperate, he says. Then he asked, do you have any questions regarding your moral situation? He says, no, I am morally sound. Then he says, take that as your base. If you have the morality, at any time you can develop concentration. And therefore don't take the whole teaching into a single fact of concentration. And then make a kind of consolation to Venerable Assaji, and he maintained and he was contented even under such excruciating pain. Even though he criticized himself, his moral condition was intact. That was not challenged, that was not blemished, that was not broken, that was not the transgressed. So he based upon that, and then it was happy for him to understand what the Buddha is telling, what the Buddha is teaching, and the story ending telling that his death happened soon after he became an Arahant, in his deathbed. So this Venerable Jnanananda Katukuru, our Venerable Jnanarama is quoting, he says, the concentration is an important necessary state, but don't take it as the final goal. So that is the main idea, the denial of this statement. So that one has to be very careful in the meditation, and maybe this is the very reason why that commentators have compiled 10 points where successful meditators going to face, going to meet up with, but each and every have their own perversions. Unless otherwise you recognize then and there, you will get caught up into the vortex. This is happening whenever the first difficult part, the bottlenecks being sorted out, then you go to the very open-minded, the bright and the concentrated situation. They are all what you expected, all the mental factors going to happen in abundance. And there you will be elated as to, up to the point thinking that you have become an Arahant. That is because of the overestimation. That is because these good conditions are taking you for a ride. So today in the meditation world, so much of people are claiming this and that. And may be true, may be brainwashed. They may be overestimating of the estimation of the little good achievements, and ultimately no one come and challenge it. So they are living in their dream worlds. Whenever a vicissitudes of the world, or gain or lost, or pain or pleasure, that kind of come and stuck, that is the point you can understand whether that your estimation is correct or wrong. But when that happens, it will be a double disaster. The particular thing is different, and the other thing is your glass mansion will be broken there. And then ultimately such people are blaming even the Buddha, even the Dhamma, even the Sangha. And they despite even their virtues. So therefore, when and where the meditation becomes gainful, when and where the meditation catch the momentum, have to equally be cautious. So in the Theravada tradition, every pithole has been mapped and telling these points you may get this kind of dangers. So therefore, don't try to get elated, but be careful. So the Dasa Upaklesha are being well recognized. Obhasa, Jnana, Piti, Passaddi, Paggaha. Obhasa means that mind become very bright. It's a kind of a sign that hindrances are no more. When the mind is mixed up with the hindrances, the mind is not bright. It is full of darkness and the difficulties. There is no foresight. But whenever the hindrances are going, you have a foresight and mind become brighter. And Obhasa Jnana, special kind of knowledges going to arise because that hindrances are not there. So by leaps and bounds, mind progress. So that very mind, the very person, going to overestimate it. I am getting omniscient knowledge, like I am going to get knowledge like an Arahant, or I am entertaining a knowledge like a Sekapuggala. It is natural. So this jnana is going to happen, but overestimation is because basically you are going to identify with. You are going to assume it. This is my jnana, this is I, this is myself. Under such circumstances, you may feel, if I am to sit in this sitting, I can sit even 10 hours. No problem, because everything is very conducive. And Obhasa Jnana Piti, whenever the gladness going to arise, it is pervading, overwhelming. So and sometimes it says it is beyond the human nature, amanushi, rati hoti. That means that by any kind of materialistic pleasure, you can't go up to that kind of happiness, because this is inalienable and unalloyed. You don't feel like opening your eyes. You don't need any kind of alloyed or the enhancement. By itself it is satisfied, full contented. So therefore, this piti, the non-materialistic pleasure, definitely you consider as the highest gain you got it. And the sukha is the pleasure coming out of this gladness, also by leaps and bounds is pervading. And paggaha, you develop kind of energy, you develop kind of enthusiasm that you will think it will last to the whole your life. Earlier you had so much of difficulties how to maintain this energy, because whenever the boredom happens, whenever the monotony going to happen, whenever the fearfulness happens, you will be exhausted, macerated. So your energy go flat. But under good conditions, energy continues. And then the mindfulness, predictably you can live 30-40 minutes or sometimes even more, that you can make sure mindfulness will never fail. That kind of the mindfulness going to happen. And kind of equanimity going to happen. That equanimity is that you will see whatever the pain going to happen, whatever the distraction going to happen, you can develop the equipoised mind. And sometimes the resolution, it is not the normal faith, it's a resolute kind of faith towards the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, or your own virtues. It's so much of happens, so you feel like teaching others. You feel like the sharing with your parents, dear and near ones. You will tell them, you people are meditating, but you do not know the art. I am the person who know the art, therefore do it in a consistent manner, like me. You see, I am very happy, I am very bright, I am know very everything like. You keep on doing, ultimately what happens is, you do all kind of communication and telephoning and letter writing and talking, you yourself will drop. So therefore, when and where such a thing happens, you have to understand the undermining tendency of the magnetic power of these good qualities. So these are sometimes attributable to the single factor of concentration. When the concentration happens for the first time in such a big way, all the other the faculties, all the other powers is going to develop. So when it happens, you just simply succumb to the situation. So, but if you are practicing under a teacher, and if you are lucky enough, and if you are rational enough to report in a proper way, all the seasoned teachers, they come to know. But what happens is, you fail to report it. You don't think it is something valuable to report. So, if you are reporting, definitely teachers can do it. Teachers can help you, but even then the doubt is whether you will accept it or not. So one day when I am practicing in Panditarama, daily we have 2 days time, we have interviews. One day I gave a report. It's a full of good qualities. I wrote that it is like a car light is coming and splashing in front of me, it is blindfolded, so I feel like within the light. And the lightness of the body also you feel. And you are just like on a conveyor belt. Meditation is progressing without any hindrances. And you don't feel the body. And then I was keep on writing, telling. And each and every sentence I am telling in English, the translator is translated to the Burmese. I found the Sayadaw's face is becoming darker and darker and darker. Then I was waiting to see what will be his the remark. He says, ask him to tell he has bogged down. So I was shocked, because after maybe 18 months I managed to write such a good report. I thought it will be highly appreciated, but he told, you bogged down. So then he told that when the meditation there are two traps. One thing is you go outwardly and get lost, and other thing is go inwardly and get lost. This is what we call you go inwardly and get lost. It's equally dangerous than wandering mind, pain, sounds. So hardly you can digest it. Hardly you can get such an instruction also. You feel like as if teacher is never appreciating. Whatever maybe you are going to say, he is finding fault with you. This is the way it happens. So that is why, unless otherwise you have immunized yourself, very difficult. For example, if you are going to go to a place where contagious diseases are there, the best thing is to have a vaccine before. If you have the vaccine, you have the resistance and you have the tolerance power, so you can go there and work. Even the germs are there, no problem. So exactly the way the meditators, whenever the meditation is come along with, or come into the least frictional path, you must have this the immunization or vaccine, not to let the good qualities to take you for a ride. And therefore, whenever this dasa upaklesha or these hindrances going to happen, if you are be with noble other friends, advanced yogis, they will be taking care about you and help organize to come back to the proper path. Otherwise, if you are going to have your own interpretation, your own assuming and identification, enough chances for you to lose time. Of course, it is not making much of a damage. It's a wastage of time and self-indulgence. So therefore, the commentators, they verily and in a very realistic way it says, for the lazy bones, it never happens. They never meditate up to that point, halfway they stop it. And those who have achieved the first Magga Jnana, it is also not a problem. For the Arahants also it is not a problem. This problem arises only for the meritorious, virtuous, really endeavorance. The yogis is the really endeavorance. So therefore they must have this vaccine. So that is why you must not overemphasize on the, not only even the virtues, but even the concentration. Concentration is the more magnetizing. So when explaining all the 9 of these characters, the last one is known as Nikanti. Nikanti means the magnetizing power. So this is the worst thing. That is the thing you have to take care about. Whenever the meditation is coming to the frictionless path, you have so much of other, I already mentioned about what is the traditionally recognized, but the other thing is, in addition to that, of course, due to these qualities, you may develop certain amount of the mental powers. Your past memory will be very clear. Whatever the important events took place will be appear now just like a lucid dream, everything as if happening now. And sometimes you develop kind of predictability to the future. Your prediction, your prophecy definitely going to work. And sometimes you're going to feel your dear and near ones' difficulties or achievements. And the space-wise, time-wise, the mind is going to develop so much of deductive knowledges and the rational knowledge. It is based upon the realistic direct touch. And to a certain extent, based upon this direct touch, these deductive knowledges are going to do marvels. But whatever the thing, whatever your abilities, if you're going to indulge, if you're going to assume, what happens is, you are bound to lose the primary object, you are bound to lose the present moment, you are bound to lose the mindfulness. So to a certain extent, your predictions and everything will be correct. Ultimately, your concentration, the mindfulness, everything collapses. And some of the Mahayana text, it says, if you are not really stopping at the proper level, sometimes due to this assuming of this half-boiled or half-developed qualities, ultimately your virtues also will be in danger. You will say, even little bit of transgression, no problem, still I can have my mindfulness, still I can have my concentration. So therefore, you always underestimate the danger of lack of virtues. And therefore, there you have to be very humble, develop the, beginner's mind. Daily you must understand the Dhamma, the truth is working in the cause and effect relationship. Whenever the necessary causes are there, effect is going to happen. But you have no right to recognize this effect as me, as mine, or as myself. So recognition or assuming or identification of this is me, this is mine, and this is myself is what the Buddha called Dhammeta. Dhammeta means you presume, you assume that I have my due rights to claim this as me. No one is going to object unless otherwise you have gone prepared for that. So that is the one of the benefits of having a noble friends. If it is not so, this will become a trap. If you can sort it out within the early stages, it's just a wastage of time and you can cover it up. But if you are becoming a rut, if you are going to be beyond the control, you can damage, you can misrepresent, and you may be teaching others and going to help others. Ultimately, your progress also hindered, and what you are teaching, what you are helping, others also will be misled. So, Venerable Jnanananda, the Katukuranja Jnananda, he used to say the example of the compartment, railway compartment. Railway compartments are meant for travelling. But in Sri Lanka, sometimes, whenever you wanted to have a temporary railway station, you take the compartment out of the rail and keep it there stationary. And they are going to issue the ticket for the passengers, but the compartment becomes stationary. That is what happens when you are supposed to be a meditator to progress, but instead if you go out of your rail and going to help others, other commuters issuing the tickets, you will be stationed, even temporarily. So that is what can happen. So this is happening only for the successful yogis. So therefore the concentration you have to understand in its due proportion, in its due the context. So that is very difficult to have by oneself. So therefore the Buddha says, whenever these mental factors, that means the productive, positive mental factors going to happen, you must have the proper view. In order to have this proper view, there are two proximate causes. Dve me bhikkhave paccaya sammaditya upadaya paratocha goso ajjhata yoniso manasikaro. If you wish to have the proper view, You must understand it is based upon two proximate factors. One thing is you have to listen from others. Never it come within yourself. So you have to have a teacher, or you have to have a respect for the others, or the proceedings and the people, those who have already success. And the second thing is, when and where they are going to give the proper signal, you must have yoniso manasikara, the radical reflection. If you are going to have the rationality, you are definitely arrive at a wrong decision. You have to have a radical reflection. You have to have a wise reflection and appropriate reflection. Then only you can understand the proper teachers. They give the proper interpretation when and where it happens. So therefore, don't take the concentration as the aim or final gain. So that is pathetically you can see when the Buddhism goes to the West, what happens. Everyone practice meditation for healing, or for cure, or to have this and that qualities. And it's an epidemic now. When you go to the West, you can see people are meditating like anything, but you ask for what? They never think about that kind of a transcendental kind of transcending of the samsaric suffering. They consider the samsara is a positive thing. Only the difficulty is when they have frustration. They wanted to get out of frustration and the physical ailments, and again go back and entertain the life. Under such circumstances, when the meditation become a tool, definitely you commercialize it. It becomes business Buddhism. America is famous. It's business Buddhism. Everything is money. So under American condition, under this consumerization society, under this commercialized situation, there is no other way. Because they can't understand what is the main teaching of the Buddha. Buddha's teaching is not the cure, but the prevention. Generally it says prevention is better than cure. But it is not a sellable item, the prevention. Instead, cure or healing is very popular. You can sell them. And they are advertising meditation. If you do 10 days, this much of results. If you do 3 10-day retreats, this much of results. And ultimately people go with transaction. They pay, they allocate time and expect and demand this and that. But as far as this concentration is concerned, you have to understand it's a completely different story. So to get into the proper perspective, you must see the whole picture, not a very tiny place with the magnifying glasses. So even Bhikkhu Bodhi recently wrote few articles. Now Americans must reconsider whether they should go directly for the inside meditation, or should they come back for generosity and the virtues. Definitely they have to come back to the virtues and the generosity, because their mindset is not mature enough. They can't accommodate the meditative experiences because they are going to give the wrong interpretation. So last time when I go there, I had a 3.5 to 4 hours argument, or rather discussion with him. I told Bhante, it is wrong. Whatever maybe the mindfulness or inside meditation is good. Why you are pulling it back to the generosity and the virtues? Then he says, you have to go and see how much complications they are making out of the meditation experiences and interpretations. So therefore, if they do not understand, or they are not developing their cultural background, very difficult to have the proper interpretation of the meditation. So I apologize because I have not read this article. Later he sent me the articles, and he's been an American. He says even the concentration has to put into the proper perspective. Otherwise it can going to give a wrong interpretation. So therefore, if someone is going to ask, is your meditation is basically to gain the concentration, you can't say yes. Or sometimes you may say no also, but at least have a consideration, think twice. Whenever the concentration happens, of course the meditation is good. You feel like hilarious, you feel like achieved like, But they have, the concentration have its own weakness, its own flaws. So unless otherwise you know it, unless otherwise you go prepared, that itself will be a trap. So Vipassana yogi teachers, they say number of incidents during the time of the Buddha. You know the Devadatta's case. Devadatta was a very successful meditator. He achieved so much of qualities in concentration. Ultimately he started to develop extrasensory perception. And he went to the Buddha and told, why you are taking so much of pain to administration on the Sangha? Give it to me. I will do it for you. Then the Buddha told, even I won't give it to the Sariputta. Who are you? And then he was angry. Then he went to the king and showed his magic. And the king was so convinced, he thought the Devadatta is better than Buddha. Ultimately he gave all the facilities and he tried his best to kill the Buddha and to become Buddha. That is his brother-in-law. So ultimately it went into the worst situation and transgressing all the kind of crimes. So that is because he was a successful meditator and he was successful in concentration. And taking the life of the Buddha itself, in his early stage as a very small, the newly born prince, there was a Alarakala, the Asita Tapasa. He was a ascetic at that time, a royal guest, and acclaimed and achieved person. He paid a visit. The king was very happy because he got a boy baby. So he offered the ascetic, telling, I got a baby because he is a crown prince. And by looking at his features, the Asita Tapasa first smiled and then cried. And then the king was bewildered, telling that he was a sage and why he is smiling and why he is crying. He told that if he is going to be a wheel-turning kind of a monarch, that means whole world, he will be the king, or otherwise he will be omniscient. So king decided better to be a king rather than becoming an omniscient one. So he thought, I will make the arrangement so that he will not go away, renunciate, he will be the king. But the puzzle was, why this Asita is crying? Then he asked, dear sir, why you are then if it is so crying? He says, by the time he becoming the Buddha, omniscient one, I will not be here. I will be passed away. So even if you are passing away, you will go there and reborn at least in another place and come back to the Buddha if you really know. But he was in a non-materialistic kind of jhanic absorption. So therefore once he passed away, he reborn in the non-materialistic kind of jhanic abode. So he can't listen, he can't smell, and all the faculties are no more. So therefore even the Buddha happens, he can't listen to Dhamma. The argument is, if he knows that he has a very short life and the Buddha appear after his death, why can't he get rid of this attraction to the non-materialistic kind of jhanic practices? If it is so, he will be reborn in a place where he can have the contact with the Buddha or communication with the Buddha. But his attraction was so. Even the Buddha going to happen, he missed the bus. For aeons of time, he will be in the non-materialistic kind of planes. He can't gain any kind of Dhamma. And the Alarakala Udrakaramaputra also, two teachers, the ascetic Siddhartha was practicing. And he mastered everything. And after his very enlightenment, he thought the worldlings are completely self-indulgence and sensuous pleasure. So therefore no one will understand his profound Dhamma. So therefore at the beginning, he denied to share with other people, worldlings. And then due to an invitation, he reconsidered who will be the best person or people to understand his Dhamma. When he is reflecting back, he remembered his two teachers were with good concentration and the jhanic absorption. So he considered to go there and teach. But by the time they have already passed away, and they are reborn in the non-materialistic sphere, no communication. So this all, their achievement was lost. Even with the consideration of the Buddha, they can't help. So that is why specifically the bare insight teachers are always pointing these facts and says, whenever you are going to get this kind of the deep jhanic experiences or concentration experiences, you have to understand they have their own magnetic power or taking you for a ride. So unless otherwise you are immunized or vaccine, this danger is there. And other part that you have to understand is, these jhanic experiences are not permanent. Even if it is developed and mastered up to the point that you can go as and when you want, under some certain circumstances, that will subject to changes. And if you are holding them as, this is me, this is mine, and this is my soul, or holding them as, assuming them or recognize them, whenever they are going to fail, it will be a hell of a setback. You never expect them to subject to any changes because of your desire, because of your attraction. So therefore, even the concentration drops. And the Dhamma talk, as it advances, I have to introduce that even the very mindfulness that you are developing, not permanent. They also have ups and downs. When the mindfulness is there, just like in the concentration, if you are going to be happy and if you are going to claim, if you are going to assume it, when and where the mindfulness and the concentration is dropping, definitely it is going to lead disappointments. So therefore you have to understand they are just tools. They are not the aim. They are not the final goal. So if you know their appropriate value, the due value, where it is available, not falling into its trap of magnetic power, you will make use them. And when and where it is dropping, verily you will accept it. It is not, you will not consider it as my personal mistake or my commitment. It's a natural thing, the concentration to come and concentration to go. It is natural thing, even the mindfulness to come and mindfulness to go. So, when and where you understand this quality, you have a reason to be glad when the concentration is not there. You have a reason to be glad when the mindfulness is not there, you are aware of it. Usually what happens is, whenever the concentration is no more, whenever the mindfulness is no more, you become sorry, you feel disappointed and backward. But if you know the mindfulness also, you have to master as it arises and as it disappears. That means the beginning, the middle and the end of the mindfulness. And the concentration also, you have to understand the beginning, the middle and the end of the concentration. Otherwise, you always expect the beginning and the middle. You are never ready to see the end of the concentration. You are never ready to see the end of the mindfulness. That means you are not full mature enough. So the nirodha or the cessation or tapering off of the good qualities, you have to expect it and you have to immunize into that. By then only you can understand, whenever the mindfulness is dropped and lost and gone, how to start the next day with the scraps. At that time, teacher is not there, Buddha is not there. You yourself knows how you develop, and when and where it is developing, you know this is also going to finish, ceases. And therefore, your equanimity, your equipoised mind, to see the beginning and the middle and the end, that is the top grade mindfulness, top grade insight meditation. What is the early part of your meditation is to see the beginning, the middle and the end of suffering. Or beginning, middle and end of the defilements. But now you replace the defilement by the good qualities like the mindfulness or the concentration. Now you have to develop the same thing on the mindfulness and the concentration also. They also formations, common character is they have the beginning, the middle and the end. The day you understand, day you have the equipoised mind to see the beginning and the middle and end without subject it into the ups and downs, that is the way you have trained. So therefore concentration you have to train 1001 times. As and when it arises, you must understand this is the concentration. And as and when it comes to the peak, you have to understand that is how the concentration, and that is how the characteristic of the concentration. And when it ceases to exist, you must understand this is a part and parcel of the game. So therefore not to worry, not to lose the heart. And that is how the maturity going to happen. So for that maturity, concentration is an essential part, but not only the beginning of the concentration, at the end also. That is why when you are progressing, it is a one episode. That does not indicate that you are do away with that concentration. Later when the maturity happens, the arising, beginning, middle and the end, everything will be mastered. Then only you can interpret terms on the concentration. Otherwise you are slave. So concentration meditation or samatha meditation never teach this lesson. Once you gain concept of a concentration and go to the vipassana only at the inside meditation, simply you can say what is the meaning of how to practice vipassana means. You can say any phenomena, you have to see the beginning, the middle and the end. That is the way of interpreting vipassana. In order to see it, you have to see concentration 1001 times coming and going. That is how you master. That is called, it is asevati, bhaveti, bahuli karoti. That means at the beginning you have to associate it and see its characteristics and its functions, its proximate factor and manifestations. And when you are going to happen again and again for each and every sitting, each time you have to understand, not only understanding or recognition or defining the mindfulness, concentration, but to understand the beginning, the middle and the end of the concentration also. That is how you get the distance from this concentration. And more you develop that kind of a distance, that is called mastery. When you are mastering only, you can go to extrasensory perceptions without much attachment. Then that is also under your control. Otherwise, that you may be conditioning yourself, thinking that you have this and that jhana, this and that concentration or extrasensory perceptions. Don't know whether it is a conditioning. They don't know whether you are the brainwashing. And second person can't come and help. So therefore, 2 teachers so far I met, they says, always underestimate it. No harm. If you are going to overestimate, you succumb to this the difficulty. So underestimation must be your strategy. So therefore, the least amount of damages. So therefore, when we are practicing like in this retreat, there are a lot of conditions and conducive condition for you to develop the concentration. Whenever it happens, definitely you feel happy, you feel least amount of friction. But don't get attached into that. And when that happiness going to happen, you have to understand equally it will go off. But when it is going off, don't let the undermining tendency of hatred to come and distract you. Equally, whenever this conducive condition happens, concentration happens, don't let the undermining tendency of the desire to come and overwhelm you. That is how you get the distance from it. And if that is the case, there is no hindrance. The path is no with much of difficulties, less and less friction. But before finishing, one remark I would like to make, no one escape without falling into this trap. Everyone falls. But the only thing is, after a certain limit, you have to understand this is a trap. That is enough. Enough means enough. And then you can go. So with that remark, I would like to sum up the today's talk. Thank you very much for listening. So we have already taken 1 hour and 15 minutes. So if any questions or any remarks or statement, welcome, and there are some written questions also.
Swami Vahamsa, I have a question. Can you give an example how cheating happen in meditation? You said
how?
Cheating. I mean, how I can cheat myself. Cheat,
yeah, I got the point. That's the question.
You give an example.
You know examples. I have nothing to give examples. You very knows example. It is just a matter of sharing with that. This is we have to explain with respect to the anusaya kilesas. Or asava. Anusaya is known as underlying tendencies. Asava is influxes. So therefore we are always finding a reason to be elate, put up our ego, put ourselves in the high pedestal, whitewashing all the time. We are big people, I know it, all the kind of things. So whenever achievement is going to happen, in the education career or in the job or specifically in the meditation, that is happening. So therefore, I mean, it is not a bad thing, but you have to keep a bird's eye view to see how much it is damaging. So that is in the education system or advertisement, or in the worst thing is the mass media. They are really pushing you into that trap. Present day we are called, present age is information technology. Information technology means cheating. Simple cheating. Or exaggeration. Exaggeration is the younger brother of the lie. So we are now in the full of exaggeration. So when we are talking, we can understand how much we are exaggerating the simple facts. In the day-to-day conversation. And the exactly thing is multiplied in the radio, television, novels. So we are living in that. So therefore, when the meditation thing happens, you must understand, you have to keep that, the immunity or the vaccine all the time, to associate the kind of a people, what the Punnamantani Buddha explained, appiccata, santuttita, pavivekata, asansaggata, viryarambata. They must be always the first quality is that mention about have few wishes. That means even you have this very extreme kind of virtues, never going to tell others. Even if you are going to have good inside knowledges, don't brag. So these are, they have already established these qualities. So when and where you have that kind of people, you must take them as a role model. And instead you may have 99.9999 other people, they are always in this advertising world. Always they are in this information technology. So you can't say that it is the majority, therefore I am natural to succumb to that situation, because once you fall into that, you are the person suffering. But there are rare opportunities, rare examples are there. Some people don't get caught up there. They maintain appiccata. It is called adhigama appiccata. Adhigama appiccata means your own achievement. When and where it happens, you understand it as a danger. I must maintain moderate character. I must maintain that not bragging, not showing off. And it's very difficult. And this is only possible for the, if at all, for the meritorious people. They can do something above average, but even they must live in the, it's a simple living, high thinking. More and more they go to the high, they must be more and more simple, more and more moderate in the life. So that is, for the moment, I thought it is only available in the Asiatic countries, but when I go there are some very good people in the West. They are fully achieved, but never show off. They are not claiming even religious. They are not claiming even spiritual. But looking at, you can see, their qualities are there. So you must have kind of a connection, bridging with this kind of people, but very difficult to come close with that kind of people. They are not happy with popular understanding, but they are role model. So therefore, we must have all the time some kind of association with the noble people. I mean, that is the simple, significant feature for you to have non-frictional path. Otherwise, so much of friction due to your own achievements. But this is openly discussed over the table only in the inside circles, not with the other religious people. Other religious people don't take it up because it never crop up. But the inside circles, I am so happy. Before my ordination, I had about 8 to 9 years. There was few groups. So I am going there. They are classic example for them. Everyone was educated. They have fairly enough money, but their life was so simple, very easily achievable. And you go there and ask, they will teach just like for the kindergarten people. Never brag. And the way they train me, not by words, by behavior, I thought even becoming a monk, it won't be a problem for me. Otherwise, it's just committing suicide, becoming a monk means. It's such a hell. People are assuming so much of it, because everyone come and pay respect and say, this is what for you, this is... Who the hell is not going to assume? So you have to be very, very careful. Whatever may be, you are to suffer. So I am always happy with that lay people, but they had the special trait. They consider it as a lay meditation center. They never allow monks to come in, even for a discussion. I was against for that. Even at that time I told, no, that we have to keep in the equal way, but don't give a high chair, but have the equal understanding. Where there are some rare monks I really appreciate, who Pandita Sayadaw and Venerable Jnanarama and Venerable Jnanananda, they maintain their simplicity, but virtues undisturbed. We are lucky to have that kind of thing. So therefore, the Theravada Sasana, now we call it 2600 years. It is the 2600 years of this modesty. Nothing else. There's all models. They have maintained from one person to the one person, just like a relay baton, is being passed. Not the scholastics, not the achievement, even the Maggaphala Jnana, but how to maintain it without show off. That is how it maintained. So whenever we people, we have our academic, financial, social achievement. So when and where it happens, make a reason to be humble, make a reason to be modest, make a reason to be the beginner. The simple word is beginner's mind. That means you are going back to the child psychology. Back to the child age, and how nice, how simple they are living. I think example-wise, you know better than me.
Bhante, I was told one time, I'm confused now, actually. Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Yeah.
I was told one time that the direct path to Nibbana was via Vipassana. And that samatha, and that this is a long time ago, and that was the direct path to Nibbana, which you did not need to drink jhanas. And that samatha was kind of like a detour. So, well, that's what I was told. Is that right or wrong?
I am not directly coming with you, but that is the basic thing I explained in this today's talk. That whenever the concentration achievements are going to happen, it may be a trap. Jhana, or the concentration. That means samatha, the conventional concentration. Can be a trap. But if you know it, if you go prepared it, you can cut off that danger.
Somebody like me, right? I'm not a monk. So, how would I know it?
Knowing of the danger, or whether you...
No, how would I know if I was in there? I was making the mistake.
So first and foremost, you have to understand what is the characteristic feature, what is the definition of samatha, what is the definition of concentration. What is the definition of the concentration, how it differs from mindfulness, how it differs from the faith, how it differs from the energy, how it differs from the wisdom. So when that happens, that is an academic understanding. You discriminate, this is the concentration. The concentration is being termed as one-pointedness. One-pointedness because our mind is split, scattered. So whenever everything comes into and focus into one thing, that is what we call the concentration. When you put a lens, the sunlight is come and focus into one point and you can burn a piece of paper. Because of the one-pointedness of all the rays come and concentrate into one thing, and then it is developing the heat so that it will go beyond this burnable level. So likewise, whenever the mind is scattered, if it is everything is directed to one side, you develop what you call the concentration, the difference between the piece of iron and the magnet. The piece of iron means its ions are scattered. Magnet means one directed, so you have the polarity. So concentration is making a iron into a magnet. So when that happens, you are the very person going to know the concentration. So at the beginning, therefore, your understanding is theoretical. And the second part is, you have to deduce, you have to have a rationalization. Is such a thing is necessary? Should I sacrifice my time to develop that kind of thing? And when that happens, only the resolute faith going to happen for you put into practice. First the theoretical knowledge, second rationalization, then you put into practice. All the people going through these two stages are not going to get the concentration. Many failures are. And one or the other, maybe few percentage, going to get the concentration. This is different from the theory knowledge, different from the rational, it is direct touch. When and where happens, what happens is you become elated. You're going to feel the light and light perception. So you let it happen, but understanding its own drawback, its own flow, its own disadvantage, that's all. That is what you call have the immunity, have the vaccine. When the concentration happens, don't go overall and try to indulge it. Understand it itself has its own weaknesses, its own flaws. Then you are mastering it. Otherwise, concentration will be a master, you will be the slave.
Venerable Bhante, something came to my mind while listening to the discussion. Now, for yogis, as I understand, one common issue as we advance in our practice is to differentiate between the involved day-to-day attention and the serenity, which is better, or whether serenity is better, or whether involved attention is inferior to that. Now, generally speaking, as we meditate, especially in the concentration meditation, or when we understand or when we experience some kind of serenity in meditation as a result of meditation, we do not like to let go of that and enter the day-to-day living. A classic example is, maybe it must be happening due to other reasons. Now, in most meditation centers, there is a very gentle bell denoting the end of a meditation session. The mind is brought gradually from that serenity to normal so-called day-to-day living or involved attention. In contrast, in some of the Mahayana traditions, where they do this, some kind of special meditation, they use a symbol. In bands, in school bands, there's a huge symbol. A very clanking sound is sounded at the end of the meditation. And it's mindfulness, it's beautiful mindfulness. One time you are involved with the serenity, bang, next time you should not hate that sound and hate the fact that you have to enter into that normal whatever day-to-day involved attention. You are there. So that is because the path to Nibbana or realization, we can't say serenity is more important than the involved part, or that involved part is less important than the serenity. Both are important equally. So that is there. When you are serene, you are there with a bang, you come out of it and you do not regret, oh my God, I had my serenity, now it is gone. Now you are there, fully awake, it is there. It is also important, just like the serenity. That was something I wanted to add. I hope I came out properly.
So if there are no questions from the audience, we can go to the three questions that we have. Yes?
So, my question is, I know there's stories that, I guess in the suttas, where, well, the person was not a monk and they became enlightened. Right? And then, suppose, attained Nibbana. So how would that be done? I mean, supposedly, in my mind, I don't know whether it's right or not, becoming a monk would facilitate becoming enlightened and obtaining Nibbana. So how does that work? I'm a little confused. I mean, why not? Why not just be a regular person and try to get enlightened and obtain Nibbana if being a monk isn't going to ensure you're being enlightened and obtaining Nibbana?
So that I heard a story that is the straw that is going to break the back of the camel. Do you know the story? So the one last straw, when you add it, it breaks the back. By the time it's a huge straws are there, but you are adding one by one, and at a time, when you are adding the last straw, break off. So it is very dramatic. You are talking about only that point. But up to that point, it's a gradual development. It's a gradual development, this is the break-even point. So when you are talking about the break-even point, it's very dramatic. It's historical. But every break-even happened during its due course. So when you are reporting, you can't explain all the way it is gradual development. It is considered as understood. Given this dramatic point where when the back is broken by the last straw. So exactly the same. Angulimala case and everything, you have to see with respect to the background. Don't go by the report, that you have to understand the whole story. Don't over-exaggerate the one particular event. one particular episode. It is being highlighted, provided that you understood how the gradual development is. So the contrast between the gradual development and quick enlightenment.
So the straw might be becoming a monk, on the other hand, the straw might be something.
The straw may be the same breath, yet another breath.
You said to understand beginning, middle and end of concentration, and that will enable you to be free from attachment to it. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that statement?
This is of course I mentioned about specifically on the mindfulness and the concentration. Today's topic is the concentration. It is a generalizable thing. Anything, if you can see the beginning, the middle and the end, it go for wholesale business. Till that only it becomes in the retail business. Unless you see the beginning, the middle and the end, it becomes something special and it is specific. The moment you go into see the beginning, the middle and the end, then it becomes yet another something. So in the concentration also, what happens is, he used the term serenity. When the concentration happens, the rapture, the serenity and the happiness are the association factors. So whenever these positive things happens, your attractiveness, your desire come all together with the arising part of the concentration. So you are welcome. But when you come to the peak, it is by leaps and bounds you entertain everything. But whenever it ceases to exist, the pains are coming, thoughts are coming, sounds are coming, then you start to hate all the sounds, all the pain, all the thoughts, but you don't try to see the cessation part of the concentration. Because you have been obsessed by the intruding pain, intruding thought, intruding sound. Because it is more prominent and throbbing. But in the Vipassana or in the inside meditation, when it is happening again and again, if you wish to isolate and see the beginning, the middle and the end of the concentration, when the concentration ceases to exist, when the attention is going to shift, you must understand you are failing to see the concentration because it is associated with the hatred, dislike. That is underlying undercurrent. So if you go prepared, that means at the peak of concentration, now you know now it is in the downhill. And when the downhill happens, how can I equally be aware of the cessation part of the concentration? And that is always colored, always tinted with the hatred or dislike. So therefore, the liking at the beginning and the dislike at the end, if you be aware of this underlying tendency, then you are mastering it. So next time the concentration happens, you understand it is nice thing, but always ending up with that disappointment. So therefore you have so much of attachment when it arises. Because it is, ending is something negative. And so therefore the day that you have to develop your day to routine practice or regular practice, daily, for example, in each sitting, if you are going to get this happiness out of concentration, so it's a good chance for you to be prepared. As it is arising, it's a pleasure. When it is disappearing, we miss the bus. We complain about the secondary intruder, rather than the end of the tail end of the concentration, because it appears like something hateful, something irritating. So you have to go prepared. That preparation is you are learning how to live a catastrophe, how to be mindful at the catastrophe. So full catastrophic life is full dramatic, that means. Earlier you may consider it is a weakness, it's a poor nature, but the more considered arising, it's a one thing, and it because serenity, the happiness, everything happens. But when it is disappearing, if you are equally can observe the underlying tendency, Buddha says in that statement, in that observation of the cessation of happiness, Buddha says, "O monks, The suffering is definitely suffering. I am not fighting with you. But I am only telling, understanding the suffering as suffering is the most beautiful thing in the human life. So you have to be fully awake to see how the happiness gives rise to the suffering. Don't let the mind to be get tinted with the undermined tendencies. That means you have to go prepared. When the peak of the happiness happens, you must understand how it is going to go downhill and still have the patience. That I have specs now. The people are talking everywhere. Also hooking others also to join them. It's very disturbing. This is characteristic on the third day and the fourth day. So I am observing more than every one of you. I feel very sorry. Because after planning for 1 year or so, we came together. Now we are socializing. We are trying to understand each other and asking how are you and kind of thing. But everything at the cost of your mindfulness. So therefore mind your own business. That's the simple answer. Everyone, not a single exception. Everyone is there. But I can't deny because I have to talk a lot. So you have to excuse me. Without my talking, I can't conduct it. So therefore you may ask, how can you tell us because you are the person talking too much per day? Accept.
Bhante, I want to add to that. I want to say thank you very much to whoever who had written that. Even I got drawn into too much of talking today. The thing is, I see one danger area, especially at that place we sit, or some of you sit to have a cup of tea. Now, why I want to mention this is, now, especially at Mitrigala Monastery, there are well-known danger areas, especially at the place the monks are having their meals. And also even those long-term yogis, resident yogis, when they, in the evening when they go to have a cup of tea or belimal or whatever, that is an identified danger area. So we are advised, especially when we are going there, to be very mindful, okay, this is an area full of traps, so I will not get drawn into it. So now even in this afternoon when I was passing, someone raised a question and then I had to stop there, I had to explain. So this is how it goes on. So we agreed at the first day that we will be mirrors to each other. Please, even to raise questions which are most of the time unnecessary actually, please refrain from that. And as Bhante just while ago said, rather than thinking of becoming a monk, just be mindful. Let's be mindful from moment to moment, and then it will do the job.
So mindfulness has a similar meaning that mind your own business. It's almost like the synonyms. Don't go for asking others, don't try to advise others also. To be mindful, mind your own business. Because all the instructions are given, we have enough discussions, we have enough sermons. So minding our business means be an island to oneself. But it's very difficult. Therefore, some people has undergone 10 days of no single words, they have completely lost their speaking capacity for the whole life. It's a shock. So therefore, you have to understand it must be trained in the gradual way. The very first day, if you are going to stop all of a sudden, your psychology can't cope up with it. So therefore, you have to slowly understand, and when the concentration goes and when we develop the familiarity, slowly, taken one's own solitude, and if someone is going to misunderstand it, later we can do something. And for the moment, just ignore. Yet another written question. When I began to meditate on the breath, I was overwhelmed with the many sensations, weight, foul taste and smell, white light, colors. I got frightened. Should I try to stay with the breath? Should I let my mind choose what the more into? That means is the bright light what they call the shining mind. So here we have to understand all these the things labeled here or listed here, something like it is listed as under the topic of the subject of sensation, the weight, the foul taste and smell, white light, colors, and all these are the immature signs. So therefore, when and where it happens, don't try to get dragged into that. Don't let them to taken you for a ride. Let it happen again and again. In order to have that consistency, you have to take the refuge of the primary object. So even if they are come and intruding you, see through them and try to have the connection with the primary object, and then you will develop an art, whatever the distracting things, how to have the connection with the head office or the primary object. For example, when you are driving a vehicle in a busy street, your attention must be with the windscreen. Of course, there are some windows and the side mirrors. They are also helpful for you to be a good driver, to get the sensation about what is happening. But if you're going to keep the complete attention in the side window, it's asking for trouble. Soon you see you have to come back again to the windscreen. And again, maybe a car coming or vehicle coming, the police or fire brigade, with so much of honking, and there you have to see the side mirror. Immediately get it, so you have to respond it, and then again you have to come back to the windscreen. So exactly the same. But throughout the talk that we mentioned is, when the positive thing happens, due to the attraction, we think it is something important. When the something negative happens, due to the hatred, we think it is something important. So all these things are, you have to understand, not arising once in a lifetime. It is bound to arise again and again. So definitely you will be master with the time it is happening again and again. First and foremost you have to do is, develop the mastery with the primary object. Through that you can understand the whole universe. That much Buddha is assuring. If you master one thing, it is a holographic effect. If you know one thing, it is a representative of the whole universe. But the science and the education now is extrovert. They are going to understand the whole universe, forgetting about the very center. Inside meditation is insight. Inwardly, select one, it is prominent by itself. You are not choosing it. And then go in to see all the different facets of the in-breath and out-breath, if that is the primary object. And even 1,000 times that question happens, it has a value for this question, because beginner always get distracted. So therefore don't hesitate. We will discuss again and again. This is a good sign. Now mind is progressing. That is why these signs are happen. So don't take it a burden. Don't think it as your own mistake. No. Everyone is having this. Everyone has different combination, different weights. But whatever may be, one has to understand. So yet another example together with the car, that when we are learning a car, definitely we have to go to the solitude places where there are no much of pedestrians and the activities. So you are not going to meet up with accidents. So therefore, up to the getting the license, is it okay for you to learn in the solitude paths? But once, if you are going to apply for a professional driving, a chauffeur, if you are going to say, I have learned, I got the license only in the solitude path. So if I can give me an assurance that I have to drive only in the solitude paths, I will get the job, not otherwise. You won't get any job. Because when you are driving, you have to cope up with a lot of other distractions, pedestrians and kind of things. There you have to understand, even the pedestrians are there. If the accident going to happen, you are committed. You are the one to take care not to meet with an accident, and you must know how to avoid it. So likewise, if you can develop the skill, even in the busy street, if you can manage to maintain the trip without accident, then you are a good driver. So more and more you practice, these good and the bad things going to be crowded with. But even then, lose the sight with the primary object. Then Venerable Bhatt says, is compassion and emotion. This is what I learned when I am reading the book, The Destructive Emotions by Daniel Goleman. This is what they are talking about the emotions in the negative sense. Then the Dalai Lama is asking, is there any positive emotions? Everyone says no. Then he says, I would like to give an idea, what about the compassion? So then when they come into that, he says, if we have an idea about the compassion, so definitely we must understand the negative side of the destructive emotions, but cultivating constructive emotion or healthy emotion, naturally the destructive emotions will be gone. So therefore, the compassion is the what we have to understand as a emotion, but it is not negative, not destructive. Is compassion rooted in avijja, like other emotions, example, anger and passionate. So this is very nicely explained, and I recommend that book. It's a very thick book, Destructive Emotions by Daniel Goleman, and forwarded by His Holiness Dalai Lama. And yet another incident coming to my mind, when as I am a lay person associated with Venerable Dhammika, he told me, because we both were fans of Krishnamurti, we are listening and going there. One day during that time, Krishnamurti paid a visit to Sri Lanka, and he was given the accommodation in the state guest house, and only with the limited amount of people for the private discussion. So one day, Venerable Dhammika is a white monk, he is a revolutionary, going everywhere. So one day he is going there, he come across the royal guest house or the state guest house, and the guard has told, no, there is a state guest is there. He knows who is the place. So it is why? No, it has been only for the people reserved. Then he started going backwardly. I am not going forwardly, I am going backwardly the place. And then the guard came and asked, Bhante, I told you not to go because I am in trouble. So you tell them, no one went forwardly, I am going backwardly. So ultimately, being a white monk, he has been allowed. So when he is going there, there are a few people talking in the very nice atmosphere. So he went there and sit without disturbing the society. This is this thing. So Krishnamurti is telling, develop the blank mind. That is the serenity, that is the compassion. So then Venerable Dhammika was confused. He says, can I raise a question? Is the blank mind compassionate? Then Krishnamurti has a very nice, serene smile. He says, blank mind is the compassion. It is nothing to develop. When all the bad things go on, the compassion is the one arising. That is what we call the blank mind. It is nothing to develop. It is not the training. Remove all the bad things, the compassion comes. So therefore, our nature, our intrinsic nature is the compassion. Due to these defilements, due to this result-oriented fighting, due to our one-upmanship, we have lost it. So whenever it is going, the compassion naturally come into being. So therefore, that we can't say it is based upon avijja. But the politicians have a special kind of compassion that is based on avijja. That is called not the compassion, it is called vested interest. Be careful, the worst thing in the world. You have to understand by following politicians. They have so much of love, so much of tears, so much of words. It is out of this vested interest. And whenever their purpose is served, finished. And sometimes we also have this vested interest. Very bad. Very bad.
So, how would you end up showing loving kindness? Because in my case, and I'm not trying to be funny or anything, I'll never clear the tablet, clear the plate, so that if it's a blank mind, right? Got too much on the plate, clear off.
Yeah.
So how would one show loving kindness?
So first and foremost, you have to love yourself. Develop the loving kindness to oneself. You sit comfortably, best of your time. Forget about any meditation, forget about a religion. Just think, may I be free of hatred. The day you understand, now it is not completely, plate is empty, but the only available thing is loving kindness to oneself. So then you understand all your assets, all your gain, everything you can entertain only when there is a loving kindness. Otherwise, the hatred when it comes into being, everything will be filthy. Filthy. When the hatred comes in. So therefore you are slowly getting rid of the hatred, asking it, may I be free of hatred. May I be free of hatred. May I be free of... The moment you come to know, you understand each and every person is a representative of loving kindness, but due to the outer crust, outer rust, outer dust, they can't. Because they think they are responsibility to be filthy. The secular ethics, or that embracing others like brothers and sisters, the compassion is what you have to understand, because everyone is with their own plate of suffering. But we see rich people are better off, poor people are suffering. But when you look at and talk with any person, they have their own due course. So therefore we have our own background to say everyone needs love. Everyone is happy to get compassionate. So therefore the compassion is the one we respect you, the male, female, east and the west, and ordained, unordained, Buddhist, non-Buddhist, you can go. You can say like that. Not the opposite. I am telling that emotions are considered in the West as all negative. But the compassion is the one emotion. The Dalai Lama came out. It has no negative. It is not destructive. Not the negative. It is not destructive. It is not constructive also, but it is bring the human into the human nature. Brotherhood. The feel like a family members. The compassion, even among the animals. Whenever you become compassionate, you can communicate with them. So it is this thing, it is not something coming out of meditation. It is an intrinsic nature of human being. What the meditation do is removal of the dust, removal of the rust, removal of the outer crust. And once it is removed, the compassion comes into being. When compassion arises in the mind, should it be subject to vipassana, compassion is also impermanent and non-self. No, when the compassion happens, it is easy to develop vipassana. Because that the mind become wider, mind become large spectrum, so you can accommodate the contradictory things. You can accommodate the radical things. Otherwise, you can't understand how the same point, heat and cold arises. When the heat arises, you can't imagine the next moment in the same point the cold arises. The lightness and the heaviness arises. All the contradictions we consider as polar apart. But they are coming from the same source. If you are compassionate, you can accommodate. More accommodation means you are ready for the next moment, next episode. so the progress will be unhindered. So for the vipassana, if you have the compassion, the least amount of friction you have. If there is no compassion, you would say, when I am going to take spiritual life, lot of distractions are going to happen. Marya coming and distracting me. All the kind of cock and bull stories. The story is because you don't know the compassion. If you know the compassion together with vipassana, a path is no much of hindrance. If any hindrance is going to happen, you can understand the weakness in the loving kindness or in the compassion. It is like balm. It is like a lubricant. When the machine is with the heat, when it's wear and tear, you better put little lubricant and then smooth running happens. When compassion arises in the mind, if we read with it, is it against vipassana, even though we do good karma? I know. Not against vipassana. It's like lubricating a machine. Specifically the metta is known as sineha. Sineha is the exactly term for the lubricant. The compassion also the same. So therefore compassion means that anukampa. Anukampa means that if someone is really suffering, mind to mind connection happen, you feel to help, to do something, share with, and that is not a developed thing, it is a natural. So you do whatever the body knowledge says. Don't ask this and that professional knowledge. The body will tell you what to do. So then you feel ease, you feel fully in this event. You are not escaping or you are not jumping into. It is circumstantial. So therefore it won't contradict with the vipassana. Could you explain the terms Mahaggatang va chittang, amahaggatang va chittang? The mahaggatang va chittang means that the jhanic experience. That means mind is beyond or surpassing the sensuous pleasure. So opening to the non-materialistic pleasure. Amahaggatang va chittang means that it has not gone and it is only understand the sphere of sensuous pleasure. Materialistic pleasure is amahaggatang va chittang. In Satipatthana Sutta, is it about compassion? No, this is about concentration. Two states in the concentration. Another question. In yesterday talk, you said that during vipassana meditation, people experience meditation pleasure, immaterial pleasure, combined with painful feeling, boring. It must be boring. So this is not combined with, they are reciprocal each other. Before going into the immaterial pleasure, a kind of a hurdle, kind of a bottleneck happen with the pain, or boredom, or monotony, or fear, or lost. So there, if you have a proper preparedness, moment you digest it, go through it, the pleasure going to happen. If you are going to fighting and with the hate kind of thing to the boredom, you never experience the seen through, and then you are not exposing to the immaterial pleasure. So there it is just a mere change in the attitude. Go prepared easily. The pain is an indication. The boredom is an indication. The lost feeling is an indication you are at the wake of pleasure. But if you can see through, you can go there. So there is no second person necessary, so no second thing necessary. It's a change of attitude. And whenever the pleasure happens, when the pressure is reducing and going off, the pain can come in. They are interdependent each other. You went in to say one has to go beyond this the feeling to perception. Can you please explain the situation? So this pain and pleasure is the main thing regarding the feelings are concerned. Our mind is always obsessed with pleasure-seeking game, always pursuit of pleasure. But whatever the end result is the pain. But anyway, if you are keeping an account or bookkeeping, how many hours in a day we are in pain, how many hours we are in the pleasure, you will see it is less than 5%. Pain and pleasure can explain out of your time, maybe less than 5%. What is balance? Balance you don't know, that is no pain, no pleasure. Because that pain and pleasure is very dramatic, very attractive, so it appears like a fulfilling the whole area, but if you have the proper accounting or bookkeeping, understand the pleasure and the pain, it can't explain much. So then you can go to the middle path, that is the no pain, no pleasure, and when you go there, you are shedding off another outer skin, and you are preparing for the next stage. There you can understand the labeling technique, our cognition, our apprehension is the one going to recognize the feeling as a pleasurable or painful. As far as you obsess with the pain and the pleasure, you can't go into the other sphere. But we are gross way, you remove it and take the middle, no pain, no pleasure, and go there. You can understand the pain or pleasure, gain and the loss and all the kind of thing, nothing but the label. Different labels different mindsets can give different labels. So perception, when you come to know, it you appear like it's nothing but a mind game. Mano pubbangama, mano setta, manomaya. Mind is the forerunner. Mind is the deciding factor. Everything is mental. It appear like you are in the half dream. You don't know whether it's realistic or whether it is conceptual. So much the perception going to happen. So there are another kind of a mastery, another kind of a seasoning you have to do. You also spoke of people who are unmindful and have no clear comprehension, don't have fear and the shame. Yeah. My understanding of clear comprehension is seeing and acting with wisdom. Can you clarify this with an example? Many thanks. So that I don't know whether it has been challenged by this statement or accepting it. Whenever the mind is unmindful and there's no clear comprehension, under such circumstances only the fearlessness and the shamelessness can happen. Shamelessly you can do. If you clearly understand the consequences, this is the advantage or disadvantages, you can't commit in a callous way. You are so morally responsible. So that is what we do with the mind, help with the mindfulness and the clear comprehension. When it is not there, you become callous, you are morally not responsible. That is because you fail to see advantages and the disadvantages, flaws. Then you are up to any mistakes. You spoke about the increasing the level of sila, adhisila. How can we develop this in daily life? Thank you. So, simple speaking, outwardly sasana, you can say whenever you are taking 5 precepts, think about at least once a week 8 precepts. That means you have to skip the dinner, that's all. What else? You are going from 5 precepts to 8 precepts means skipping the dinner. That is the one difficult. Consider once a week, and then twice a week, thrice a week, 7 days a week onward, that's okay. And when that happens, the 9th precept is the giving up of money. You can't think about it. It's so much bogged down with the money, so therefore you can't think about. So when I am telling just, I never thought that Nisarvana is free of money. I thought that everyone is using money before my ordination. So I went and told my brother that I feel the money is such a difficulty, so I like a life without money. He told, you are an ideologist. How the hell you can live in this world without money? So of course I went backward and stepped back. We don't know. But anyway, now I am in the 23rd year without money. So last time when I am coming from the America, I am going to take the Emirate flights. So much of checking because it's the national day. And there was a lot of threats. So before going also people told that not to go to the America, but anyway, There may be danger. So when you go there, they ask me to stretch my hand and padding there, X-rays are there, because the robe is completely different thing for. So after that I got this thing, and now I am in the path to the plane. After the checking the boarding pass, and there one lady came and stopped it. Then I stopped. How many money you have in the bag? I have no money. No money? No, I told, I am not simply using money. You are not using money. No. If I am going to check, at least I will find the $5 there. Then I told, property is there. You have your doubt. Why don't you check it? And by the time the other person is declaring and she is writing the number of dollars they have. I don't know what is the reasoning. Then all of a sudden she says, anyway, you can go. Because they can't understand it. And yet another day, so when I am going there, I had my check-in baggage, so therefore one person paid for a trolley. So it was $2 or something. So the person came. And ultimately, after finishing everything, just before the security, you have to push the trolley into the proper place, and there's a 50 cents dropping there. So one officer came and helped me. Here onward you can't take the trolley. You better put it there. Okay, I will put it for you. So when they slang the money, here, 50 cents. Then I told, not necessary. No, it is free. You can take it. Then I told, I am not using money. You are not using money? He just pushed away. Anyway, it is time up for you can go there. For the American people, they can't think. Not only the America, even here. So when I am traveling whole trip without using money, I mean, lot of people coming to the last end to the airport, and whenever I come back, they are ready. That is, it's a gift situation for me, but without using money means it is unimaginable. So when you are going up with the sealer, 8 to 10 precepts, or 9 to 10 means the last precept is the money. The moment you gave it up, you will see the enormity of the space. The money is such a thing. So when I was in Nilambe, the first time I gave up my job, and I went to the Nilambe, it's a crisis in my life, but I went there was a German lady is handling the Nilambe. And Godwin told, nothing to worry, even at that time we had to pay $1 a day. 20 rupees a day. At that time a dollar is 20 rupees. So even it is not necessary. So anyway, I used to give my due. So I asked that lady, write me about 15 days, I am going, this is the book you can write, as you like. Then I told, you write it, and then all of a sudden I told, I have a happy news. What is that? I resigned the job. She told, if you are not a male, I will give a hug. You know why? The day I gave up my job, I feel the enormity of the space. Now I can understand your mind now. And she told that you can't think, you can't imagine, because the amount of the infestation, the money going to give. When the people are giving whatever may be cooked and you are eating and doing meditation, I'm sorry, you may be very envious about the monk's life. You all are lay people, I know it. But I am telling it is not every monks are doing like that. But when you are doing, you feel how much we are in debt to the laity people. We can say lay people are not virtuous, they are killing and stealing and whatever may be, they are the people going to give us the food. So we are parapatipaddame jivika, we are depending completely upon that. And then upon that, your generosity, we are practicing other virtues. So interdependence is there. So it happens then regularly whenever you are free of money. So I am sorry because I am just talking about the Adisila. Adisila means going to the higher sila. So slowly, you have to learn the art. And even you go to the Samanera and Upasampada, there are little bit of refinements. Fine refinements are there. When and where it happens, make use of the opportunity, go forward. And even in the Sila, So much of contentment is going to happen. Okay, now 10.
You said family, the change of attitude. You said you have to just get involved and children and spouse and so forth. Then there is a lack of compassion there.
So how you are going to die then? At the death, you are very incompassionate. Because whatever the way, you have to give up. It's a destiny, it's a given thing. And giving such a shock or rehearsing them by little, which one is better?
But I have a friend, Bhante, who is very much into the Buddhism, and her family are getting very hurt, with like a detachment, so it's not easy.
Of course, that is, I understand. Even the Buddha says, the renunciation. He given an example, there's a very elderly couple. The young lady is so old, but still the husband and wife living. They have no house, they have a hut. And it's the Kajang one. It is so weak, the crow can come here and go from the other end. And there's one labukatta. Labukatta means the vessel came out of this, the labu again? Kind of a goat, pumpkin. And there's a little bit of green grass. Tonight they can cook and eat. And tomorrow they have no way. But there's a worn out sickle is there. Tomorrow early morning they have to go out and do the earning with the help of that worn out sickle. And you have to sleep on the floor. And Buddha says, even that old man, very difficult to give up that old lady. That old worn out hut, that worn out sickle, and the goat. So what about the Kingsley family, young boy or young girl with the black hair and the full, all the kind of facilities and giving up? With nothing to talk. Even for that old man, giving up that old lady also difficult. It is, it is going against the grain. So, that is only possible for human being. Why not? Try. It is not a compulsory, it is not a commandment. But you can opt, you can adopt into that situation once in a while for the sake of fun. Give up. Because at the death, definitely. What to do? Definitely going to happen, and then it's a big shock. So that is why the Buddha says that if it is an invariable thing, why don't you rehearse yourself? Why don't you get used to into that? And that is the way you keep the thing in the due places, in the appropriate places, rather than developing unwanted affection. So it is, I don't know that I can accuse it is a question basically for the females. So all the females have a special attraction for the children. I don't know it's a good or bad. That's why Buddha said, Mata yata niyam puttang, ayusa ayaka puttaman rakke. They have still the naval code is intact like. Even the partition happened, still the naval code is there. I don't think that all the males are advanced in that. Some people are get attracted. But there is a kind of thing. But the Buddha says even the Mata Puttika Bhayam. Mata Puttika Bhayam, that you see that the monkeys, the very small kids, and are playing here and there, they want to jump and kind of thing. Whenever danger happens, the mother come and pick it and jump into the tree. So that means even at the death the danger of the monkey, the mother just jump into the child and catch it. It is called Mata Puttika. The mother is, at the despite of her life danger, is going to the young one. But at the very severe situation, Buddha says, sometimes no help, the mother also perish, the child also perish. Under such circumstances, very rarely mother forget about it. And so very rare it happens. So samsara, the life cycle, there are enormous opportunities, enormous chances, mishaps for amata puttika baya. So such a danger, mother can't think about the child. So much is the perish, so much is the suffering involved. This thing. So if you have so much of attraction, so much the suffering. Pemato jayati soko. For the attachment, so not the attachment. The root cause for suffering is the attachment, and I will boldly state, all our suffering come from dear and near ones. From all our sufferings come from our dear and near ones. That's when we were proliferating. That's when we are growing, thinking that our security, our identification and our reputation and everything is dear and near one. But that is the source of suffering. So, Pemato jayati soko, tanhaya jayati soko. So, better not to talk on that kind of thing till you become 40s. At the 60s, if you are not understanding, something wrong with your mind. Because 40s is the point you are becoming a psychologically reborn, you know the art. And that even at the 60s, if you are entertaining the same kind of thing, better to have a MRSC scan. Something wrong. Okay, now we can. So today is the third day. So up to now everything happens very smoothly. So we must be thankful for all the organizing, known and seen and unseen beings. And equally we will share the merits with the relatives and the dear and near one. And may remember and straighten our objectives with the help of all the accumulated wholesome deeds. May we reach our final goal in the quickest and the easiest way. With that idea, we will be reciting traditional stanzas to mark the end of the day's program. Ettavata janammehi sambhatam punya sampadam sabbi deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata janammehi sambhatam punya sampadam sabbi bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata janammehi sambhatam punya sampadam sattanumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahittika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkantu sasanam. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahittika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkantu desanam. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahittika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkantu mam param. Idang vo jnatinam hotu sukhita hontu jnatayo. Idang vo jnatinam hotu sukhita hontu jnatayo. Idang vo jnatinam hotu sukhita hontu jnatayo. Imina punya kammene mami bāda samāgamu. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Imina punya kammene mami bāda samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Punya kammene mami bāda samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okasa Vandami Bante
Sukiyotu
Maya Katam Punyam Samina Anumoditappa
Sadhu Sadhu Anumodami
Samina Katam Punyam Mayham Datappa
Sadhu Anumoditappa
Sadhu Sadhu Anumodami Okasa Dvaraki Katam Sappha Yakshayan Kamakati
Kamami Kamitappa
Sadhu Okasa Kamani Bante Itiyak Okasa Kamani Bante Itiyak Okasa Kamani
Sukiyotu Abhivadana Silissa Niccang Vata Pacayino Chattaro Dhamma Vaddanti Ayuvanno Sukhang Balang Ayurarogya Sampatti Sagga Sampatti Mevaca Ato Nibbana Sampatti Iminate Samijjatu
Silavantan Purvantan Purvantan Sariputtan Tirana Adhikam Sampatya Sakrasi Patang Sampatya